The best MMOs in 2021. Whether you love massive raids, solo quests, or ruling a corporation, there's a great MMORPG for you. MMORPGs are some of the biggest and most ambitious games on PC. Across hundreds of games, MMOs rake in $10 billion a year and reach an audience much higher than that. Take World of Warcraft, for example, where players have collectively logged more time in Azeroth than our species has been on this planet, over 6 million years. But at the heart of all these big numbers is a simple ideal: that anyone from anywhere can become anything within the confines of these virtual worlds, and grind out some epic loot in the process. MMOs have come a long way from the text-based multi-user dungeons they evolved from. To celebrate that awesome lineage, and help you decide which one is actually worth your time, we've rounded up the best MMOs that you can play right now. First, I'll tell you about best upcoming MMOs. New World. Amazon's no-subscription-needed New World has changed a lot over the past few years of development, and though it still looks promising, we're beginning to worry. It's been delayed multiple times and is now coming in the spring of 2021. It wavers between being a proper MMO and just a really big multiplayer survival game. After the enormous failure of Amazon's other game, Crucible, it seems like Amazon still hasn't figured out what the New World should be. What's never changed is the emphasis on massive PvP territory battles with 50 players on each side battling it out to control various forts and settlements scattered around the map. Advertisement. While I'll never say no to more PvP-focused MMOs, I'm also excited to check out New World's action combat, which actually requires carefully timed dodges and melee attacks instead of memorizing complex hotkey rotations. But given its numerous delays and constantly changing features, we're a little skeptical. Even so, New World could be a surprise hit, and we're eagerly waiting to find out. New World should launch this spring. Dual Universe. Dual Universe is a massively ambitious sandbox MMO that's like Minecraft meets No Man's Sky, but everyone exists in one shared universe. It's been in development for years, but this spacefaring MMO has some cool tech under its belt, especially in how it plans to handle thousands of players in a small area at the same time. If you've played sandbox survival games like Empyrean or Space Engineers, you'll be fairly familiar with how Dual Universe works. Everything is destructible, and how you can design vehicles and spaceships is completely up to you, as long as you have the resources and skills, of course. What's cool, though, is that Dual Universe takes that familiar survival sandbox and drops it into a massive galaxy where entire player alliances can cooperate or fight one another. You can design ships and then sell blueprints to others, and there's even a Lua-based scripting language so you can create in-game automation for machines, like autopilot protocols or advanced security systems, that can also be sold to other players. The ambitions behind Dual Universe are sky high, but if it succeeds, it might be the next big evolutionary leap the genre has been waiting for. Next category is Best Theme Park MMOs. World of Warcraft. No other MMO has had a greater impact on the genre and the entirety of video games as a whole quite like World of Warcraft. For that reason, putting it anywhere but first on this list just doesn't feel right. Even if Final Fantasy XIV is still our best pick for the MMO of 2021, it's a tight race, however. Though it might be getting on in years, World of Warcraft continues to surprise. Shadowlands, its latest expansion, returns to the glory of WoW's early years through a mix of ambitious new systems and one of the best endgames the MMO has ever had. Whether you love dungeons, raiding, player versus player battles, or just exploring a wonderfully charming world, World of Warcraft has you covered. In Shadowlands, there's also unique activities like Torghast, a roguelike dungeon that changes each time you enter it. There's also fun events like timewalking that let you revisit old expansion dungeons for cool loot, and world quests that help you accomplish something meaningful even if you only have 20 minutes to play. Advertisement. There's not a lot of negative things to say about Shadowlands, though. Its story and questing feels tired, but each is such a small fraction of how you'll spend your time in Azeroth that it's hard to get too mad at them. That said, World of Warcraft's endgame is still very diverse and fun, even if it has frustrating flaws. The path to its throne is littered with the bones of would-be usurpers, but World of Warcraft's unparalleled zeal for bringing the world of Azeroth to life is a force to be reckoned with. Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV's journey has been a long road full of disappointment. Launching in 2010 to an overwhelmingly negative response, Square Enix refused to give up and rebuilt the whole game with a new team. The second iteration, A Realm Reborn, has done a better job of rekindling the love fans had for Final Fantasy better than any recent game in the series. It's at once unflinchingly dedicated to following in World of Warcraft's footsteps while also introducing a host of refreshing ideas, the best being the innovative class system. Gone are the days of needing a new character for each class. Final Fantasy XIV lets you swap between them whenever you please, and there's even room to borrow abilities between classes, just like in the classic Final Fantasy job system. But Final Fantasy XIV isn't just about combat, either. Its story starts slow but builds into a grand epic spanning continents across its 3 expansions, easily rivaling any of the classics like Final Fantasy VII or X. It's a journey worth taking, if you have the time, but one thing to keep in mind is that 14's endgame, while offering challenging and memorable boss fights, is scarce. Updates come at a steady pace, but you'll run the same dungeons and raids dozens of times. Now is a great time to consider playing Final Fantasy XIV, though. Its Shadowbringers expansion released in 2019 and is easily the best one yet, telling a dramatic and heartfelt story in a parallel universe. Next category is Best Sandbox MMOS. EVE Online. When you think of modern sandbox MMOs, there's only one place to turn: EVE Online. The 18 years that EVE has been around could fill the pages of a textbook, but only if you're studying How to Lose Faith in Humanity 101. Its reputation for being a callous, uncaring universe was forged over a decade of war, betrayal, and scandal. But that same Spartan culture has also given birth to the kind of camaraderie you'll never find anywhere else. EVE Online is obtuse and complex as hell, and there will be times where you'll stare at the screen, clueless of what to do. CCP Games gone to great lengths to make EVE easier to understand, but your best teacher will always be the sting of failure. The good news is that a few years ago EVE Online started offering a free-to-play option, letting you dive into its sandbox with a limited set of ships and skills to use. They've since expanded the program, giving free players even more choices of what ships to fly. Those who persevere will find a whole galaxy of possibilities at their fingertips, and really, that's always been EVE's greatest accomplishment. It's truly a living world where those with the will to rise to the top can find a way, even if that means using all those daggers in the back of the people who trusted them as a foothold. Black Desert Online. Korean MMOs are often negatively viewed as brutal grindfests, and while Black Desert Online doesn't break that stereotype, it does offer one of the most expansive crafting systems ever seen in the genre. While the active, combo-based combat is great fun, there's dozens of career paths to take your character down in this dynamic sandbox MMO. You can be a merchant, a fisherman, or invest all your time into building a massive production empire of beer. This is all thanks to Black Desert Online's complex node system. Each region is divided up into nodes that provide various resources, while properties in cities can be purchased and converted into blacksmiths, fisheries, or storage depots. Instead of doing all the hard work yourself, you can hire automated workers who level up and have their own innate skills to do the heavy lifting. It's an intimidating system to learn when you're just starting out, but the freedom it provides is unparalleled, and it's unlike anything else in the genre. It can be just as rewarding to spend an evening tweaking your farms and leveling up your workers as it is taking down one of Black Desert Online's brutal world bosses. And if that doesn't suit your fancy, the node system is also the foundation for weekly guild wars, where guilds race to conquer various nodes for special bonuses, making BDO a great choice if you're into PvP as well. Next category is Best Story-Focused MMOS. The Secret World. When it comes to telling a great story in an MMO, the entire genre has something to learn from The Secret World. Not only does it abandon the generic fantasy aesthetic for a gritty contemporary one, it also ties so many different themes together, from the Illuminati to vampires, that it shouldn't make any damn sense, but miraculously it does. Not too many MMOs can say they've borrowed from the pages of Lovecraft and The Matrix and made it work. And like Lovecraft's best, The Secret World is a bizarre page-turner that will have you digging deep to unravel all of its mysteries. That love of a tale well told is best demonstrated in The Secret World's investigation missions, which require donning your detective hat to search the internet for clues to decipher puzzles. You'll pore over Wikipedia pages and through backwater websites hunting for that one piece that will make the whole picture come together. The Secret World relaunched as The Secret World, Legends, revamping a lot of the game's weakest systems like combat. The overhaul doesn't necessarily fix everything, but it does go a long way to making the secret world more enjoyable for newcomers. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Early in its life, The Old Republic had a kind of identity crisis that initially turned many away from playing. It wanted to be both a follow-up to the cherished Knights of the Old Republic while also giving World of Warcraft a run for its money and, at the time, did neither very well. But just like its setting, those days are long in the past and the Old Republic of today is far more enjoyable thanks to a refined focus on what it's always done best: telling a great story. Where most MMOs offer only a single overarching narrative, the Old Republic has 8 different class stories to experience in the main game, and all of them are exciting and fun. Whether you want to sex your way across the galaxy as a seductive Imperial agent or just murder everyone as a Sith warrior, the Old Republic has some of the best storytelling ever seen in an MMO. BioWare spent a lot of money making sure that the voice acting was top-notch, and it really paid off. The Old Republic's presentation is unparalleled. In recent years, the Old Republic has expanded on that foundation with a series of expansion packs that each tell an overarching and extremely cool story. What's better, SWTOR has removed much of the friction you'd normally experience in an MMO, like having to grind for levels, so now you can just blitz the story missions one after the other like a single-player RPG. It's great. The Elder Scrolls Online. It took The Elder Scrolls Online over a year to finally find its legs, but now that it has, it's quickly become one of the best MMOs on the market. That's in part thanks to the steady stream of excellent premium expansions that have gradually opened up new areas of Tamriel to explore. Fans of Morrowind can venture back to Vardenfell, the home of the Dark Elves, but ESO has bravely opened up never-before-seen countries like the High Elf Kingdom of Somerset and, soon, the Khajiit homeland of Elsewhere. Advertisement: each of these expansions is notable for their self-contained stories and often excellent side quests. If you're a lore nut for Elder Scrolls, then ESO has so much story to offer, and much of it delivered through great voice acting and fun quests. If that's not your cup of tea, you can also design your own house, participate in chaotic 3-way PvP, or explore the world in any direction you please. Thanks to the One Tamriel update, U-level scaling now lets you approach even endgame zones at any level, giving you more freedom over your journey. Next category is Best PvP MMOs. Guild Wars 2. When it comes to player versus player combat, few MMOs can ever aspire to do it better than Guild Wars 2. For those wanting a more traditional experience, structured PvP lets you fight in team deathmatch and objective-based modes in that focus on skill and coordination. And then there's the World vs. World mode, where different servers come together to wage war across sprawling maps with hundreds of players at once. Participating in sieges and large-scale battles is the kind of fantastical fulfillment you dreamed of as a kid, and you won't need to grind for 100 hours before you can participate either. Advertisement: the heart of what makes Guild Wars 2 fun to play is all in its action combat, which emphasizes dodging and movement instead of memorizing complex skill rotations. You'll weave in and out of range of your opponents while unleashing flashy abilities, of which there are many to choose from. Each class is quite flexible in how you want to play, giving theory crafters enough material to chisel away at their perfect build. With the launch of the new expansion, Path of Fire, there's no denying that PvP took a hit from various balancing problems, but ArenaNet is already making adjustments that will hopefully continue to keep Guild Wars 2 at the top of the dogpile. Planetside 2. That Planetside 2 is the only game on this list that involves shooting is telling of what a unique premise it is. It's also the only one where the entire focus is around killing other players and prizing territory from their cold, dead hands. War in Planetside 2 is an unending struggle between 3 nations each seeking to control 4 distinct continents. If you're not keen on all the distractions of your average MMO, Planetside 2's purity of war is refreshing. You'll spend an evening conquering a whole planet and log in the next day to find you're now on the defensive. And as the cycle repeats anew, small but memorable moments begin to form in your mind. Personal Alamos where you held the line against an overwhelming invasion, or the thrill of flanking and devastating an enemy force. Moments like these are frequent in Planetside 2, and you'll soon have dozens of personalized stories as you spend each day in the purgatory of constant war. While recent updates introduced the ability to build bases, which have had a dramatic shift on where battles are fought and how they unfold while adding a new sense of attachment to your hard-won progress, Planetside 2 is definitely beginning to stagnate and lose its players. It's still a great MMORPG, but its golden years are likely in the past.